Hey, everybody. This is season 4 of Radiant Reflections. This is episode 5.
Episode 5.
Of this season. Josh, I'm going to tell you something live on the air.
Okay. This is
a surprise.
When you say live on the air, you mean
live on the air, pre-recorded. But you don't know it because what I mean by that is I've hit the red button, and this is something that you're going to learn as we're recording.
Okay.
So I decided to just utterly swing for the fences. I reached out to Practicing the Way, John Mark Comer. I'm still waiting to hear back to see if you would be a guest on our podcast.
Holy smokes.
I mean, what if it happens?
That would be wild.
Like to close the episode, like close this season out with a brief conversation with John Mark. So I just, this idea, it was in the mornings, I'm praying, I'm reading. I'm like, I couldn't shake it. I'm like, the worst they could say is no.
It's true.
The worst they could say is no. So
I mean, we tried to get Preston Sprinkle on our season 2.
We did.
But we had Sam Alberry, which is probably one of my favorite episodes that we've ever done.
Yes. Sam is now at a church. He's not, I don't think he's part of the Anglican church anymore. He's part of like a denominational something in Nashville now. And I think he's a teaching pastor. I heard on another podcast. Anyway, so surprise, Josh.
That would be
Let's see what happens.
Wild.
Yeah.
So this is an interesting thing because this was a thought that went through my mind. You know, like when we were in Portland for the pastors' conference.
Yeah.
I'm like, this is not an insanely large crowd. Again, you know what, 700 people,
maybe 500.
So I mean, it's like,
yeah,
you've got him like right there, but then there's that weird tension of like you don't want to be like total fanboy because I mean the reality is, and on some level we know, like, I mean, he's no different than you or me.
Puts his pants on one leg at a time.
But then there's like that weird tension of like, well, I don't want to go up to him because I don't want to be perceived as like some fan. I'm like, and it's just this weird thing.
I went through that exact gyration.
Okay, did you?
In the worship center, I walked up like halfway, and I'm like, oh, there's a bunch of people around him. I'm just JB. Like, he doesn't give a crap. He doesn't know who I am. I'm not going to, what? And I just turned around and walked away.
I'm like, hey, John, Bible.
Yep. Practicing the way. So, yeah, I just walked away. We were going into a session as well, but I didn't want to, I felt like I wanted to tell him just how impacting his ministry has been in my own life and my own journey. And let him see my eyes, other half of church kind of thinking, which is a whole other conversation I'm going to have with you later, or when we could have it now too, but whatever.
I mean, does it have anything to do with
it
this?
Does.
So then you should just get into
it. Does. Let's do coffee first.
Okay.
Let's do coffee first. Okay. So this coffee, like I said to you, Josh, before we started, which I've heard, just to tell you, Josh, 2 or 3 people now, they're like, yeah, we really love the podcast. We just fast forward through all that coffee nonsense to when you guys are actually talking.
So they'll like the next episode because we're not going to have any shooting coffee. 2 and we won't have coffee. Otherwise we'll be like, hearts will be jumping out of our chest.
This coffee is I don't even know where it's from. I don't even know where this one's from. I can sort of read it. I don't see the tasting notes.
Huh.
What are you tasting?
I'm going to go plum. And then there's almost like a nutty, and I can't pin down a specific nut, but like the aftertaste, it's got like a nutty vibe.
I'm going to say something insane. I taste pine.
Pine?
Like pine needles, like a piney taste.
Oh, like a sap, kind of like pine sap? Or
yeah. And it could be that I'm smelling that candle at the same time. That could be part of it, because smell definitely has a...
Well, is that a pine candle?
It isn't. I think it's bergamot or whatever, however you say that word.
Oh, which, hey.
Turbinado?
Karen is the only one that commented, I think. I was looking.
Was it Karen Bates?
Karen Bates.
She knows.
She said turbinado is sugar? Let me see.
Oh, yeah. She's right.
Why wouldn't you just say sugar?
Why would you say, but turbinado obviously is different than sugar. It's like, or is it a type of sugar?
But she said that it's sugar, 2 exclamation points, which makes me think it's just sugar.
Why would they call it that? They're just being pretentious.
I think so.
Yeah, that's real.
Would you like some turbinado in your coffee there, sir?
That's
come
how
on, it's sugar. And who puts sugar in their coffee? Let's go.
Well, we hope that they don't. So this is from the Mirish family in Nicaragua. So it's a Nicaraguan as well as Honduras. So it's a blend. From working on social projects. No, what is this? Coffee like aroma. Okay, so what are your tasting notes?
I'm saying plum.
Okay.
And just some sort of a nut. I feel like there's a nutty vibe.
Josh,
to this cup of coffee.
The first tasting note is toasted hazelnuts. 1 point. Absolutely. Red apples, milk chocolate, and a lingering finish of cacao nibs.
That's just pretentious as Terminato.
It is so pretentious.
Cacao nibs for the
It really
the
is.
coffee.
It really is.
Why is it that when I think pretentious, I automatically go like sort of British?
Yeah, well, there's
a
cultural thing.
Maybe I've got some like underlying thing with British people. I don't know.
The coffee makes a sweet and steady cup with a medium mouthfeel.
So who do you think writes copy for these people?
It's.
I mean, this is literally like you make a living like
these are
writing
Q-graders.
copy for people.
Yeah, these are Q-graders.
Like some of these, you read it and you're like,
how did you come up with that?
Huh?
Yeah.
I will say, dude, Devo got me a bag. It's a Kenyan.
Okay, he got me an
bean.
Ethiopian.
So the tasty notes on this, I'm super excited. I want to mess around with like the grind, how coarse and stuff, just to play around. So I did a cup of that this morning, and the tasty notes they list are fruit punch, strawberry shortcake, and pineapple.
That's probably delicious.
Oh, so dude,
really good.
so the way that the way I brewed it this morning, total fruit punch.
Wow.
Like you taste it and you're like, whoa, like that's
Kinsey
right
said
there.
Or Ryan said that Kinsey was over in like Syracuse or Napanee or
well, so
something.
they had that men's retreat.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's a roaster down there.
That's where Devon got it.
Totally drawing a blank on the name of the roaster.
Brew City, I thought it was what it's called.
That sounds like a
Brew
thing.
City or Brew something.
Yeah, Kinsey said he got a pour over down there and it was quite tasty.
Yeah, Devon gave me a bag of the Ethiopian, which was so kind and generous.
Devo and Megan,
our avid listeners. He's a listener, not a viewer, because I know he's an over the road. Not over the road. That's long distance, because he's home every day. But he drives.
He doesn't drive under the road.
True, but over the road means I think that means, Devon, you can correct us. I think that means like people who are gone for days and days at a time, not like local regional routes.
You'll have to jump in the YouTube just for to put comments in there, Devo, to tell us some of that terminology.
Yeah.
Kind of like Karen did with Turbinato. Yeah. Exclamation point.
But this is good coffee.
It is good coffee.
I like it.
Was it last week or not last episode we had that kind of odd one?
The Rico from Madcap. It's interesting. Chris Tallman, who is husband to our producer Haley Tallman, he texts Chad and I, and he was kind of commiserating with us about Madcap coffee. So Madcap, I have found the same thing. It's 2 out of 10 bags. It's like, whoa, and it may be just because of how much great coffee we've had. But not all of their coffee is fantastic. Some of it's just like, whatever, The Rico, like I still have some of the Rico left. The Kinsey gifted me. It's decent, but it's not like,
not blow your socks off.
No,
but I mean, like that.
Yeah, we like the anaerobics. We like the natural process, the fruity,
which is not a Richard Simmons workout.
Richard Simmons.
Let's do our anaerobics today, people.
Oof.
You know what we should do? Oof. Sorry, I'm spitballing here.
Okay.
You know what we should do just to mess with all those people that fast forward through the coffee section?
Mm-hmm.
We should do something like stupid awesome at the front end of one of these episodes.
Give away a $20 bill or something.
Like, we're just gonna we're gonna do some sort of a contest just in this front portion.
And whoop,
if you fast forward through it, you missed it. And then the next episode, you're going to find out you're a chump. No, I'm kidding. I don't know. We love you, even if you fast forward through the...
Well, there's a lot of people that we have come to understand, like they like coffee in the morning, but it's not a hobby for them. It's just like a means to an end. They want
to drink it, but they don't care to talk about it for 10 minutes.
Yeah, exactly. It's not a hobby. Obviously, if you're talking about coffee and you're concerned about tasting notes and you're concerned about brewing and grind method, this is more of a hobby. It's not like something it's more than just a drink.
So my kids, and I've probably lamented on here, but not lament, that's the wrong word, but I think it's kind of hilarious, right? My kids we'll serve them dinner. Like and Nicole and I we'll use the same recipes, make the exact same dish, like everything is the same. They will always, I'll repeat, always
superlative
prefer Nicole's to mine. And Nicole tells them, and I don't doubt it. She says it's because she puts TLC into hers, and I don't. I'm very utilitarian.
Right. Just
there's one thing though that I will put TLC into, and that is a cup of coffee.
Interesting.
So I will, Nicole and I will sit down in the evening, and I'll brew up some coffee. Nicole's not a huge coffee drinker. Like she used to be like there's more creamer than there is coffee in it, kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But I'll do a pour over for her, and she's done that just black a few times, or she'll do splash of cream,
milk.
kind of a thing.
Yeah.
But
so you have coffee in the evenings?
Sometimes. So I'll do decaf.
Okay, I was gonna say.
I will say we've actually found dude, if I wouldn't be sleeping.
You already don't sleep well.
It's true. It's true. But no, we'll do decaf. I had a decaf. I've tried. When we were up at Ferris, I got a decaf there. That was quite tasty. I'm kicking myself because when we were at Hart in Portland, I about grabbed a bag of decaf just to have it. I didn't, which I didn't have any more room in my suitcase.
Yeah.
So
mine was serious. I had to stomp it down to get it closed.
Yeah, but we really like the Five Lakes blend.
Cool.
Their decaf.
Yeah, theirs is a Swiss process, water process.
Yep.
Yeah.
And then we just had their Colombian decaf. That made a really good cup of coffee.
Nice.
So I was fantastic. Like, this is all right.
Yep. No, I haven't done much decaf. A little bit, but not too much. But
it's just nice to sit in the evening and drink a hot cup of coffee.
Yeah. No, that's peaceful. I would probably end up doing like peppermint tea or something, or chamomile. But if I do that, it's like sleepy time.
There you go. I like me some sleepy time. Although I will say, since I've gotten more into coffee, I drink would less tea.
Right. Yeah, you were quite a tea drinker. I remember when we go get a Five Lakes order, you would get peppermint tea. I remember. Yeah, the rest of us will get a cold brew or something like that. Well,
okay, cool. All right, so what's your other half of church thing?
So, have you watched the cartoon Inside Out?
Oh, dude, I love it. Have you seen the second one?
That's what I want to talk about.
Okay.
Have you saw the second one?
Yeah.
Okay.
I'm curious.
So,
it's been a minute.
Riley's obviously going through puberty, right? The whole spoiler alert. Let's just stop right here. If you haven't seen Inside Out 2, stop right now. Don't listen to the rest of this.
If you haven't seen Inside Out, the first one, you
are missing it. You are missing it. I went into both of these movies thinking
you've had your chance.
Yeah. I was thinking that there would be some agenda, some social agendas baked into the storyline. None. I was pretty excited about that. So I'm watching Inside Out 2, and I'm paying attention, like all these new feelings that Riley's. So she's got fear and anxiety. And there's very adult things, right? All these adult things that you and I. Mm-hmm. And the battle throughout the storyline is for Joy to be able to have control. And Joy carries Riley through her entire process, rescues her. Actually brings her back to herself, who she actually is inside. Joy brings her home. And I just could not help but think of the other half of church and the importance of Joy. It was a very meaningful experience. And I know it's a cartoon. I'm even emotional.
Dude. I mean, it's
I cried.
Awesome. It's awesome. Yeah. Dude, the first one, Bing Bong. Dude, I'm crying every single time.
Yes.
I'm like, no, this rocket ship.
We expected Bing Bong to be back. Like we were thinking when they went to the land of thoughts or whatever. Yeah.
He's gone, man.
I know.
He's gone.
Yeah,
yeah. But one of the beautiful things in the first one is you see that joy and sadness not only coexist sometimes, but complement one another. I think that was a good thing, right? Because sometimes
they called that back too,
right? In the sense that sometimes we put on this like fake optimism and think we've just got to be happy clappy all the time. Like, no, there are things that should make us sad, and sadness is not a bad emotion.
No,
right? Yeah. But then it's that return to joy.
Yeah.
Right? Because we can't stay in that place of sadness perpetually.
Yeah.
Right. I think it's good that we experience those things. We don't try to deny it or hide from it, but we do want to return to that place of joy, and that's where Wilder, Marcus Miller, that Chris Corsi.
Yeah.
A lot of it is about this returning to joy from
joy switch.
Some of these stronger emotions. Shame, sadness, anger. What does it look like? Phenomenal resources out there. The Joy Switch,
very
JB
good.
just mentioned. Marcus Miller and Chris Corsi, they have a series of 3. I just finished the marriage one. It's 4 Habits for a Joy-Filled Marriage. It's one of those, and this is one of the things I love about it, but now I need to go back through it with Nicole. I just read it to be like, all right, what's this about? But it's practices.
Beautiful.
It's practices.
Wow.
Hey, what are practices you can do to keep a high level of joy in your marriage? Because if you go to like the Wilder definition, joy is that sparkle we see in somebody's eye that communicates to me they are happy to be with me, right? So it's joy is an interpersonal experience.
Yeah.
So
I don't want to go all Siskel and Ebert here, but in my mind, it was interesting that what Joy seemed to learn, or what Riley seemed to learn in her subconscious, was that joy had to actually accept and be friends with sadness. And so what you notice, that even as these new emotions came to the surface, joy was closer to sadness than the rest of them. Joy seemed to trust sadness and even the control of the dashboard and the buttons and so forth. Very powerful movie. I was very impacted as and that book was just firing on all cylinders. And the entire vein was that joy is what sustained Riley. Joy sustained. And I thought, man, the joy of the Lord is my strength. I started thinking of these scriptures. John 15, apart from me, you can do nothing. You can do nothing. Jesus is saying, very powerful. We are so far into the episode.
That's all right. You know what? Because here's the thing. I think it'd be beneficial for everyone to grab this book and read it. Yes. And we're gonna talk about that here for a little while. But also the principles that they unpack in Inside Out and Inside Out 2.
Yeah.
Like if we can actually get a hold of some of those things, that's phenomenal. Go to EHD, right? The emotional healthy discipleship and the mental emotional health.
Yes.
Inside Out taps into so much of that.
Yeah.
So we would do well to lean into that.
And I think the whole idea of practicing the way and or coming to the end of this season with a rule of life, which is what Josh and I, that's our goal for you, is that eventually you have some sort of things written down somewhere that define your life in Christ. I think even thinking about movies and seeing where can I see Jesus in these movies? Where can I actually hear the voice of God? And something that's completely, and those listening, you can't see me going quote unquote, I'm being facetious with my parentheses here, secular, and Ryan tapped on that even yesterday in the message. I think that's part of practicing the way of Jesus, is to say, Jesus, I'm looking for you everywhere. I want to find you in every place that I can. And I think he's so clear. If we knock, he's going to answer. If we seek him, we'll find him. We're going to hear his voice. That's why there really isn't this bifurcation of sacred and secular.
No, that's good.
Yeah. Well,
that's
for those
all bonus, ladies and gentlemen.
Yeah, that's to be bonus content. Or Haley, we're at the 20-minute mark. If you feel so inclined, maybe you cut that. I don't know.
Oh, no.
Josh says no. Okay.
No. Unless we make some random comments about other nations that you feel like would get us in trouble.
I don't know that it could, though.
Well, she did that one time though, remember? Because I got spouting off a little bit.
Well, it happens.
She wisely
it happens. Yeah,
Haley
looks out for us.
Yeah, she does.
She is a team member from afar.
She's got a good viewpoint up there in High Castle, North Carolina.
Oh, a little pun there, Josh. It's good. All right, so we are on page 24, A Way of Life. Josh, I'm seeing yours as well. You've got all kinds of things. What's standing out there? There's only a couple sentences.
I don't highlight anymore in books because you burn through highlighters too quick.
Wow.
So I've tried to simplify, and I'll just underline some key things.
That's good. That's good.
I don't.
You start talking. I'm going to adjust the camera slightly.
Okay, did I move wrong?
No.
Sorry.
I think it just needs to go like this so that we're square a little bit. All right, there we go.
I just jotted in the margins with the way of life. James 3 and I
talk about that.
He talks about good conduct. Message. Let me see. Again, there is like. I know we had a commenter on YouTube. With maybe some issues on the way we handled some things.
We were talking about before we hit record.
But the idea of like, John 3:16, for God so loved the world.
I think for James, you said, right?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I'm trying to like do.
Yeah. You're good.
I gotta do one
for
thing
a moment
at once.
in 1 Corinthians, viewers, listeners. I thought, wait, that is definitely not James.
What am I doing?
A way of life.
Say something witty while I'm.
Well, all I have is the highlights. I mean, yeah.
Oh man, where did I should have brought my own Bible.
You should have used Lady Google.
I have it underlined. Oh, that's cheating. I don't know. No, I've done that.
I use Lady Google. I'd get there quicker.
I don't even remember. We're good. But he talks about good conduct, right? I mean, there are things that will manifest in our lives. So the commenter on YouTube was saying, well, so I have to jump through all these hoops, to be saved. Because John 3:16, whosoever believes in him, so he's saying, well, isn't it enough to just believe? And I would suggest, and JB, you can agree or disagree, it's up to you. A lot of that stems from an incomplete understanding of what it actually means to believe. So I was telling
talk more about
JB
that.
before we started shooting. I'm reading through the book Analog Christian by Pastor J. Kim. And he's talking about the different fruits of the Spirit, and he's talking about faithfulness and how in our current culture, and I think this crosses over to that idea of belief. We think that you can have faith without faithfulness, right? And J. Kim says that's a false idea, right? That's so foreign to the biblical writers. But we've taken faith, we've taken belief, and made it just an intellectual exercise. Oh, I agree with this statement. Intellectually, I agree. But it's not just an intellectual thing. This is a whole life thing. If I actually believe, it will affect the way that I live. I remember this. I did this example one time in youth group, and I didn't come up with it. I stole it from. Have you ever heard of comedian Ken Davis?
No.
I think it was him.
I used to work for a guy named Ken Davis in Texas. He was a pastor.
Okay, so Ken Davis, he's a comedian, hilarious.
Okay.
I love his stuff. And I think it was him who talked in one of his bits about this exercise. So I did it, where you talk to your group about the law of pendulum.
Okay.
Right? That, like a pendulum, it cannot return to a point higher than where it starts.
Right.
That's a
diminishing,
gross oversimplification.
Yeah.
So
physics.
So what I did, I rigged up in the gym, which again, I was nervous because this was not scientific at all. I got like a length of steel cable, attached it to the support of our basketball hoop in the gym.
Okay.
Put a cinder block on the other side.
Josh.
Put a cinder block on the other side.
Oh, no.
And
you caved some person's skull.
No, I did it. So I spent some time. I rigged it up, and I tested it a couple of times.
As much as a youth pastor can.
But then I spent some time, and I talked to the students. I'm like, hey, this is the law of the pendulum. Are you guys familiar with this?
Yeah.
Yada, yada, yada.
Yeah.
And they said, oh, yeah. I'm like, hey, how many of you believe that that's true? And everybody raised their hand. So I'm like, hey, you, come on up here a second. There's somebody that's raising their hand. I'm like, hey, stand here against this wall. Right? And you bring that cinder block right up to their nose. And you say, do you still believe the law of the pendulum? And you let go.
See if they stand there.
And if they don't stand there, okay, you don't actually believe.
They don't believe it.
The law of the pendulum.
Yeah.
So I think it's like that.
Yeah.
Right? We can say, oh, yeah, that's cool. As long as it doesn't actually demand anything from me. But then it's not real belief. And that's where we again, to our commenter on YouTube, I would say
they're not wrong though.
It's a misunderstanding of what belief means.
Yeah.
So,
yeah, and I think that series that Ryan did, The Unsaved Christian, really helped us see that more clearly. Definitely, and practicing the way is as well. What about page 25, Josh? What's sticking out to you? I was stoked at the bottom.
I guess he kind of gets into that. I was jumping ahead of us.
No, one of the EOC bros, Bishop Callistos Ware, Christianity is more than a theory about the universe, more than teachings written down on paper. It is a path along which we journey, in the deepest and richest sense, the way of life. And it's about how we live. It's not just what we
uses the term lifestyle, which again is far more than just an intellectual agreement.
Yeah, I could see you have that section highlighted as well. The way of Jesus, and I just go whoop like this, is a way of life.
Yep.
It really is. So often in the church, much is said about what to believe and what is right or wrong, which I'm all for, but so little is said about a lifestyle that is conducive to life with God. Yet lifestyle is where the money is. Listeners, viewers, this is what we mean by a rule of life. A rule of life, all it is your understood commitments to how the Spirit is leading you to live before God in this world. That's all it is. What practices, what disciplines do you sense, not legalistically, but okay, and we all have these things, right? There's certain foods that we could eat. It's like, I'm going to eat this. And Josh, you're probably a good example of this. There's certain foods, because you have gluten intolerance. My daughters have this too. Certain foods, you can eat it. Like, it's not going to kill you, right?
It's not very comfortable, though.
It's not very comfortable, right? My daughter, my youngest daughter, there's certain foods, they're like on that spectrum where she can take it in and she knows she's going to suffer. Like, she just knows it. That is exactly what the rule of life is meant to be, an understanding, essentially, an understanding of how to live in this world to the fullest potential that God has for you, the fullest way that he could bless your life, the way that you can bear the most fruit. What on 26, Josh? Peterson, there's a good Peterson quote there.
You gonna read it?
Might as well.
You can't just say there's a good Peterson quote and then not read it.
The Jesus way, wedded to the Jesus truth, brings about the Jesus life. He then concluded, Jesus as the truth gets far more attention than Jesus as the way. Jesus as the way is the most frequently evaded metaphor among the Christians with whom I have worked for 50 years as a North American pastor. I've shared with listeners and viewers on this podcast and friends so much of my life with God for the first, I would say 10, 12, maybe more than that, years was all informational. It was all knowledge-based versus experiential. Actually connecting to God himself, actually connecting to Jesus himself, then knowing about him. Man, there's a difference.
Which, it's not a wrong pursuit to learn more, in an academic sense or an intellectual sense. That's not a wrong thing. It's when we only pursue that intellectual piece of it.
If we camp there.
And we're just content with that. Like, I know about him, but I don't, know him, and I'm not known by him in a fuller sense of the word.
Yeah. What else on 26?
He has kind of his take on the narrow way, right? So Jesus talks about how there's a broad road that leads to destruction, but there's this narrow path. John Mark Comer says the way of Jesus is quote unquote narrow, meaning it is a very specific way to live. And if you follow it, it will lead you to life, both in this age and the age to come. But again, and this is where it's you get into some of the controversy, right? Because people are like, oh, that sounds legalistic, right? And that's where we throw up our yellow flags or red flags or whatever.
Right.
The problem is sometimes we do that because, quite frankly, we want to live however we want to,
right,
and still get the benefits.
Right.
We want to,
right,
do things my way.
It's true.
And then still, reap all the benefits
and expect
of God's
blessing.
Yeah.
Yeah. And God won't bless when we're outside of his way. Absolutely. How about 27, Josh?
27. I didn't have anything.
Because we come into another section there. Whoever means whoever on the bottom of page 27. Anything standing out there?
As we get into 28, 29.
Okay, go for it.
I mean, I'm jumping ahead. So if you got anything,
No,
I'm jumping all the way down to the bottom of 29. It says, before they believed in Jesus, he believed in them. He's talking about his disciples. But this is a really interesting thing. You see this theme all throughout Scripture. So with the Radiant Institute, we're all doing a reading plan together. And so we're journeying through. We're taking a play out of your book, man. Over the course of the year, we'll read the entire Bible. We're doing the Bible recap.
Wonderful.
Reading plan.
Oh, yeah.
Which is hefty.
It is hefty.
That's a totally different style for me.
Terribly cobble.
I normally go a good bit slower. But as you read through Genesis, it's really interesting to see how God initiates. I mean that's all over the place, right? So I mean, John Mark Comer saying with the disciples, right? First, God believed in them, in a sense, and Jesus did. He went to them and said, "Hey, come with me."
Yeah.
Right. He took
leave your nets.
He took the first step. Right. You have God show up. Genesis 12. You have God show up to Abraham. It's like, hey, bro, like here's what we're gonna do. You see him with even with Job, right? That whole snafu started
debacle
because God says,
Have you considered my
servant Job? Like
God, please don't say that.
But even that, you see with the patriarchs, Abraham, Isaac, Jacob, like God is taking initiative. Like he shows up to them. They're not necessarily out there thinking, "All right, hey Lord, I'd like to do something here. Would you show up?" But no, he initiates. So
it speaks to his creator nature. He creates. He makes new things. He makes things from nothing.
But it also pokes holes in some of the more optimistic anthropology ideas that creep into the church sometime. You could, our Calvinist brothers and sisters would talk about total depravity. And really, when it's all said and done, Arminian theology is not that far off. If like true Arminian theology is not that far off. We just call things different. We have slight nuance, right? We talk about prevenient grace, which is still that like God does something in me that allows me to respond. It just reinforces that idea that he takes initiative. Sorry, that's a little bunny trail there.
That's good. Yeah, 28, 29. Anything else? I think the point of this whole section is that all are invited. Anyone is invited, whoever. Yeah. How about page 30?
All right, now we're getting into goal number 1.
Yes.
Be with Jesus. Well, sorry, you jumped.
Yeah, no, 30 and 31, we still had, yeah.
Oh, sorry, I'm jumping way ahead. What you got on there?
Yeah, up 30 into 31. We talk a lot about the call to believe in Jesus, to put your trust and confidence in him to lead you to life. This is good and fitting, but it must also be said that Jesus believes in you. He believes that you can become his apprentice. Starting right where you are, you can follow him into a life in the kingdom that fulfills your deepest desires. He believes that you can live under the loving gaze of the Father. You can also become the kind of person who is like the Father, loving and joyful and full of peace, patience, and kindness. You can grow into a person of happiness, even in times of great suffering. The kind of person who's not afraid of suffering or even of death, who is free of the emotional need for things to go your own way. You can fulfill your purpose. You can even learn to do many of the incredible things Jesus did, to see the signs of his kingdom manifest in your ordinary life. It's possible, all of it, but it's not inevitable. It won't just happen by chance. I love this, there are no accidental saints. You can't just slip your hand up at the end of a sermon. It's a high bar of entry. It will require you to reorder your entire life around following Jesus as your undisputed top priority over your job, your money, your reputation over everything. Yet all these things will find their rightful place once integrated into a life of apprenticeship. This life can be your life. This rule of life.
But this is where it gets interesting. You can go to like the, first of all, the call of Jesus, right? If anyone would come after me, deny yourself, take up your cross, and follow. Like, so this whole idea of reordering our entire life, that's baked into the very words of Jesus. Now go again, and I don't mean to just pick on like this one YouTube commenter, which I forgot his YouTube handle. Otherwise, I'd whatever. But I'm not trying to call him out even. Right?
Sure.
But just that idea of believe. Yeah, John 3:16. We all love that. Keep reading, like the rest of the gospel, right? Like as Jesus is talking to Nicodemus in John chapter 3.
Yeah.
The whole idea is, bro, you've got to have a whole reset here. So he talks about that idea of being born again. Like that's in the same conversation as John 3:16. We throw that around like it's friggin' candy. It's part of a much bigger conversation. And then keep reading through the rest of the Gospels. Keep reading through all of the epistles, Paul and James and, all the different biblical writers. If we're going to subscribe to the idea that those are the words of God for us, it's not as simple as an intellectual agreement with a set of ideas.
No. We have to let the gospel invade and change us, right? I think the gospel, like Ryan said in his last series, the gospel starts with this conversion experience. It starts with a John 3 Nicodemus experience, but it doesn't end there, right? It continues, and that's been such a beautiful discovery in my own life. It's like, I am being saved daily. I am being saved. I am saved. I am destined for heaven. But as I'm going, I'm being changed. I think, Josh, you and I teased out the idea last week. Maybe purgatory is our existence here on earth. Like we're being purged and prepared for the kingdom to come. I don't know. I found that to be...
Well, and you can't get away as you read through Scripture, the idea of enduring, right? I think even Jesus says it, and I'm totally drawing a blank on the reference, so don't quote me. But I mean, it's this idea that he who endures till the end. So endurance is baked into this thing, right? Which that also cuts against the grain of the way that we so often handle salvation and the gospel, right? Because it is this long-lasting, lifelong thing, right? And when we take hold of that and we endure, this is where we...
You think about the whole MO of the enemy himself. Like if it wasn't possible for us to be destroyed, why would he continue to tempt us? And why would he continue to try to destroy us if we couldn't choose to walk away from God? I mean, it kind of defeats the existence of evil if everything is predetermined. I know we're getting into some Calvinism, Arminianism stuff. I personally lean much I lean closer to an Eastern Orthodox theology of the gospel than even an evangelical definition, which is to say that we were created in God's image and we are good, and the image of God continues to be good in us. There is good. This whole idea of complete depravity, I don't know. I don't know about that. And the purpose of the gospel is to restore us into the image of God that we are and can continue to become. It's a restoration of relationship. It's not a well, it is an atonement. I don't want to go the wrong direction here, but it's much more about restoration. It's much more about reconciliation than it is about dealing with judgment.
Yeah, I don't know how much time we got. I don't know how we...
Well, that's what I figured. We maybe just stop this episode here and even jump into the next section next time. But you've got comments.
Well, no, I don't. I'm processing through because I do think there's some merit to some version of total depravity. I do think not to the extent that our imago Dei, right, the image of God in us as humanity, is totally wiped away.
Yes.
But I think I would come out on the side of like that image is,
disconnected.
I'm having to think out loud, and that's not my specialty. I'm a blue, and we process internally. But I don't think that image bearer status gives us credit to the fact that we come to God with something to offer. We are still dependent on His working. Again, that prevenient grace in the Arminian mind, or now again in the Calvinism, you'd have the irresistible grace. Either way, it is an act of God that brings us to a place of being able to, be saved. And I think, the more and more I go through Scripture, the more I do see that I think there's something there, and I know myself. Like there's
and the evil in the world.
Left to my own devices, I'd be all kinds of sideways. My natural bent is always toward self, away from God. And so I think when we talk about depravity in that sense, we see that experientially.
Oh yeah.
Sure. I know, I know the natural bent of my mind. And it's the pull of the flesh is strong in some areas. So, but I don't know.
I think honestly, the point of it to me feels like the gospel's about participation, right? It's about being a part of the work of God in our own lives. He's going to do the work, but He doesn't force us. Like He doesn't make us do the things that are going to draw us closer to Him. He doesn't force us. That wouldn't be relationship. And I think that's a real vein of what practicing the way is. Be with Jesus, become like Him, do as He did. These are just the methods to do what the gospel is doing, in you.
Yeah, so again, go to like an Arminian understanding of even prevenient grace. It's not that, we actively participate in the initial act of salvation. I'm trying to remember the theologian, but the way he put it is that prevenient grace allows us to take a posture of non-resistance to the work of God. Whereas in my flesh, I will be resistant to the working of God.
It gives you choice.
God's grace allows me to be non-resistant. I don't know if that makes any sense.
Well, I could just speak to my own story. I feel like that was very true, Josh. There was a lot of years of my life before I came to Christ where I was in such bondage to sin that I very much didn't feel like I was choosing anymore. Like I was just a slave to sin, just like the scriptures say. But the night that I experienced the John 3 Nicodemus connection with Jesus, that's what I felt like happened. I felt like the clouds parted and I could see what the choice was. I could see life with Christ and life in addiction, and then I could choose. I was given the ability to choose. But before I wasn't choosing. I was just a robot to whatever I was doing. And I do believe that if I hadn't made that choice that night, that was the fork in the road for me. But there'll be more, right? Like that. None of that just magically disappears. Which is what again, practicing the way. I think is so important. Yeah, Josh, it makes sense for us to conclude. Yeah,
we'll call it good.
Episode 5 here.
Yeah.
We'll jump into next time you're with us, listeners, viewers, goal number 1, to be with Jesus. All we've done so far is kind of introduce this method. So we'll be back. Actually, it will be in just a few minutes, but you will view it and listen to it a week away.
That's right.
But what we always want you to do, if you're just joining us, we're still early on season 4. There's still time to get out and purchase a copy of Practicing the Way, the book. PracticingTheWay.org is linked at the bottom of this episode, both in audio and video format. We would encourage you to follow the Practicing the Way podcast, the Rule of Life podcast with John Mark Comer, Tyler Staton, and many others. We would encourage you to just have a pen and paper out while you're going through this process and think about some things that will help you develop your rule of life, because we want that to begin happening in your life. And don't feel like that once you do this, like this is in stone. Like those things change seasonally. I know for me, things have changed kind of in the physical sector of my rule of life.
And he gets, I don't know if we'll get that.
Yeah.
At our rate, we're doing about 6 pages an episode.
Yeah.
So we might get into it in the next episode. But he talks about just the, hey, you know,
fluidity.
Seasons change.
You need to hear from the Spirit. So the important thing, again, as always, please like and share, subscribe to the YouTube channel. We're at 1.2 thousand subscribers. I was thinking this morning about like another giant goal. And
we had already said it's 1,500.
Yeah. After that one though, there's the next one.
1 billion.
5,000.
1 billion.
Like 5,000 subscribers. I got some new things that we could do to perhaps bolster that. We'll see what happens.
Does it involve like a Rube Goldberg or like dancing on treadmills or anything like that?
It doesn't. It requires some strategic marketing. I recently partnered with a marketing company for a client that I work for, and I've watched some of the things that they've done and the ways that they've done it. It's like, whoa, that works. I mean, that is pretty, the data is right there. So yeah, like, subscribe, share. Maybe you have a friend that would even want to journey with you as you're going through this book. If you're in our local community, I also tell you to reach out to Pastor Pam. Pastor Pam's got some groups that are actually going through practicing the way, discipline by discipline. So there's little pockets of community that's developing around this book and around sort of the culture of practicing the way. Get involved.
Which is the best way to do it.
It is the best way
community.
to do it.
So
yeah, you can't do it alone. So yeah, blessings to you, listeners, viewers. We will see you next time on episode 6.